Give it a second until maybe our first viewer pops in.
And let's see.
Who's going to be the first?
Who's going to be first? I don't know if we're going to have a first.
We're going to have a first.
You think we will?
Yes. It's not even popping up here for me to share.
Come on.
There it is.
Come on, people. Pay attention to us.
Isn't it nice? Yeah.
We have something to say.
For like the first time all year.
Yeah, really?
Oh, well, I don't care.
Oh, there's one.
There's one in. All right, we have our first viewer. I don't know who's here.
There's two. Hello, whoever you are.
It's not showing up either. Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Hitting the Wall. I am your host, Kyle Walker. I am joined this week by Joe. I told you this was going to happen. I threatened you.
Sorry.
That he would be back 2 weeks in a row.
I know. I'm sorry.
And then you're probably wondering who this handsome devil is to my right.
That's right.
I'm going to let Joe handle the introductions here, if you would, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Hitting the Wall proudly presents the man, the myth, the legend,
Bigfoot.
This is my friend Rob Wegner, otherwise known as Spinderella.
There we go.
Guys, this is my buddy Rob. And I knew that I would thank you for that. I needed that. And this is my buddy Rob. We have known each other for what, about 5 years? For about 5 years
maybe
now.
5.5.
Yeah, somewhere around that.
Getting there.
And
feels a lot longer.
I know. That's what happens when you get to know me.
That's for sure.
Time drags on. Guys, I will not do too much of, propping him up because he'll do that himself when he starts to talk. And
I will.
No, just because of what he says.
I'm missing the This Is Us premiere for this.
I know you are. I know you are. No, this is my seriously, guys. This is a friend. This is a mentor. This is a fellow sojourner in this world, and I'm privileged to have him come and join Kyle and I this week. And it's the last time I'm going to call him Spinderella, unless I ever get to introduce him somewhere else. So
not going to happen.
Yeah, I know that. I know that. So
I hope this is like a thing. Like from now on, you always will call Rob Spinderella. No
Yeah.
matter where you guys go in life,
So
it's just got to be a thing now.
yeah, I don't know.
I don't even know who Spinderella is.
We're gonna. That's okay. We'll educate you later.
Please do. I know who Salt and Pepper is.
Yeah. Well, you know the song "Push It."
Yeah.
That was featuring Spinderella.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Okay. Well, now you know.
What was Spinderella doing on the track?
Spinning. That'd be my
we don't
guess.
know.
Yeah.
We have no idea. Kyle and I don't know.
No, that was a long time ago. I don't remember that stuff.
So, when Kyle and I were thinking about what to do this week, and thinking about this whole new vein of hitting the wall, and just starting.
Speaking of hitting the wall, I want to hit that wall right there. I have mug envy.
Oh, you
I
like
love mugs.
There you go. See?
Do you get a free mug if you're a guest?
We can probably work something out.
We can make something happen.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm willing to give away Kyle's mugs.
I collect mugs. You don't give those mugs away easily. Those have been carefully chosen.
Yeah, I know.
So anyway,
I
Yep.
know.
Yep,
And
that's a good
so
back to hitting the wall.
that's okay. As we were thinking about this and thinking about the different areas in our own lives that like we find ourselves butting up against the wall. And sometimes it is, sometimes it happens in work. Sometimes it happens in just, it could be physical activity. But for all of us who are sitting here, the three of us men have the privilege of currently raising or having raised
Trace ladies.
3 ladies at my house, 2 ladies for Mr. Walker. So there are 8 daughters. I did the math right.
Nicely done.
Yes, between the 3 of us. I know.
Wow.
I'm a smart guy. And
Once or twice.
Once or twice.
Spinderella and Einstein.
That's right. And so when we start to think about this idea of
Then must mean you're salt and pepper. So
it must be.
I am salt and pepper.
I know you are.
I am pepper.
I can see it on your chin.
Oh, that's
Ooh.
dirty and accurate.
And accurate. So guys, seriously, sometimes the hardest job that any of us ever have is being a parent and trying to be a good parent and trying to be a parent that doesn't screw up our kids too much.
Too much.
And trying to be a parent that does this in a way where not only do we raise someone who becomes a good adult, but somebody who becomes better than we are.
Mm-hmm.
because I think that I can speak for the three of us who are sitting here in that realm, that we want our children to grow up and do better things than we ever dreamt of, and to live a life that's more impactful than we could ever dream of. And so that one day, as we're old and looking at our life of our kids, we can sit with a smile on our face and realize, you know what, they're not that they're not amazing anyway, but look at what they've done and the impact they've had in this world. Mm-hmm. And so, but that doesn't mean it doesn't come with struggles, and it's hard. And Kyle, you have a situation in your life where there's an added element that Rob and I don't have to deal with.
That's correct. That's being a father of 2 kids who have gone through divorce. And so, the whole part-time parenting, as they will call it. A lot of people throw around the term single parent. Well, I'm not a single parent. I'm a co-parent.
You are a co-parent.
And as I've talked about before on the show, and as I like to stress anytime we're talking about the 2-parent things, is the way I look at this with my ex-wife is as a business relationship. We're in the business of raising 2 daughters. You don't always like the people you do business with. You may not even get along with them, but you have to maintain that business relationship to ultimately make your sale or to make your profit or whatever. And the profit would be 2 daughters who are decent members of society. And let's see, I know we've been doing the math on how many we have here, but let's establish the father hierarchy here. Because see, this is important. Like Joe and Rob would not come into my house and mess with my grill or change my thermostat, because that's against the rules of fathering. So we have
man code right
that's
there.
Against man code. So we have to establish. I know that I am low man on this totem pole, as my daughters are 12 and 10, soon to be 13. Lord save us all. Which one of you is at the top of the father food chain here? Who's got the oldest?
Rob Wegner.
Okay.
My oldest is going to turn 21 in 2 weeks.
What?
Yeah, and then my middle daughter's 19.
Okay.
They're both at K-State. Go Wildcats.
Oh, there you go.
And third daughter, Bella's 15.
Power Cat, right?
Yeah.
Is it that one? Okay.
You got it, man.
There we go.
So she's a freshman over at DeSoto High School.
Nice. Okay. And then Joe, just remind everyone real quick what you're dealing with.
I've got 3 daughters. One of them is 17 for 1 more week, and then I will have an 18-year-old in my house, and then I have another daughter, and she is 8.
Okay.
And then I have a daughter who is 1.
Woo! So 18, 8, and 1.
Wow.
Basically, yes.
And
you may be at the top of the hierarchy.
I don't know about all that.
I don't know, man. The spectrum.
Well, there is a spectrum, and it does arise in my house.
There's an exhaustion level in the spectrum.
When you are staring at the barrel of, I am trying to help transition one out of my house and one out of diapers at the same time.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I got to be honest though.
Although this end of the continuum can help with that end.
Yeah, they can to an extent. I've got to be honest though. I would. I'm dealing a lot better with transitioning one out of diapers than I am about transitioning one out of my house.
I know, man.
And
I bet.
I mean, if we're talking about the walls that we're hitting,
jump in. Let's do it.
That's the one where I'm at right now, and we got to be honest about this. I mean, this is a hard thing for me, and part of what we haven't talked about on this show, we've talked about a lot of things on this show about our families and things like that, but my oldest daughter and I have a special relationship, and a lot of that came because my wife, she dealt with something that a lot of women deal with, and that was some postpartum depression when Hope was born.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of those times where there was a lot of time, that bonding that happens between a mom and a baby, those became moments where Hope and I had time together. And so we developed a different kind of a bond. And it's not that I don't have a solid relationship with Gabby or Lily, but there's something different. And, Hope is not only my daughter, but she's my friend. And I mean, she's at this stage in life, she's my friend who occasionally I have to put on dad hat with. And
is it the hat you're wearing?
It's normally not.
Oh, okay.
It's one that says dad. But when I'm dealing with this, the wall that I'm hitting is trying to figure out how to parent well in this last stretch of direct influence with my daughter in my home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a pivot. Like that's the walls for me. The walls I hit is when you reach a pivot point, but you don't know you're at the pivot point yet. So
Yeah.
I would describe it this way. Like in the beginning with your kids, you basically have to be like a nursemaid. They're a baby. You got to change diapers. You got to feed them. They're gonna burp and fart and
All the stuff that I laugh about. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And they're just like a constant source of need. But it's crazy as a parent. It's exhausting, but it's also incredibly precious and exciting.
Sure.
Right. So you're a nursemaid, and then you become like a king. And what I mean by that is when kids reach that certain age, you have to basically be like a king who's benevolently and hopefully with kindness and generosity saying, here are the boundaries of the kingdom.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
here's the order of this kingdom, and here's your role in it. Because if you don't, then kids run out in the street and they get run over. I mean, there's just things they don't know, right? That they got to be taught.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
then you got to pivot to being a coach. And that's like when they're middle school, high school. And if you do that well, then I think you get to where you're at, which is you become a friend.
Yeah.
The challenge is, like, first of all, recognizing when you're pivoting to those new seasons. And like, I'm trying to stay a king.
Right.
When I should be a coach, which I felt like in the early teen years with all three of my girls. You'd think I would know the third time around.
No.
But it's like, I'm still trying to be too controlling. I'm still kind of in king mindset when I need to be shifting to coach mindset. And so I think that's the problem too, when parents, like I see parents trying to be a friend to their kid when the kid's 6. And it's like, you shouldn't be trying to be like buddy or be like the super cool
Right.
friend.
Yeah, no.
It's like
that
they need
doesn't
you to
work.
be they need you to be a parent right now, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like so that's always been the challenge. So I get it, because same thing with Maggie.
Yeah.
I mean, she basically took a job at K-State. That's a great job. And so she didn't come home this summer because it didn't make sense for her to come home.
Mm.
You know, and then it hit me about 3 weeks into it. It's like, I don't think she's going to be coming back again.
Yeah.
Because it's the summer of basically her junior year.
Yeah.
So, and then I started getting depressed because it's like,
Yeah.
I had to start grieving because it's like, hey, wait a second. How'd that happen?
Right.
I didn't expect it, you know?
Yeah, I think the thing that, you know, and folk, when I come on, we talk about we talk a lot about the scriptural end of things, and
Mhm.
and we talk about the religious side of things, and you know, and we've all got a dear friend who talks about the tools of the enemy being discouragement, distraction, and division. And you know, I think the thing that I've been fighting in this season is discouragement, and looking back and saying, this is where I screwed up.
Mm.
And how, and realizing that it's at a point now I can't go back and fix that.
No, I get that. Yeah. And
you know, we've had the conversations on here, and where we've said, you know, I heard it was like the most uplifting gut punch I ever got, because it said something that changed in my life. But when Hope looked at Gabby and said, "You're so lucky you never had to meet Angry Daddy."
Yeah. No, I get it, man.
And I look back and I'm like, I screwed up this 6 or 7 year stretch with somebody I love dearly.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's this wall, and it's trying to get past. And so I think we talked last week that a lot of times walls are self-imposed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think sometimes with our kids.
No, I mean, I get it. I look at Belle, and I think the version of me that Belle has got is way more emotionally mature than the version that Maddie got. And it just makes me sad.
Yeah.
You know? But the thing is, all you can do is just sit back and go, okay, give yourself grace. Because I think that's what God does, is give us grace. And beating ourselves up over things we can't change only steals energy from being present with our kids now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, you know, it's really an interesting thing, because and I think that when we hit these spots, and I think the hard part is, you know, and you've talked about this, and we talked about the Run Fat Boy Run and the spatula and all those things. And,
That's right.
and that there is a moment where people just you have to plow through that wall. And I think the big question that comes to mind, and I, you know, I've dealt with it, but I think it's a big question that comes to mind, I think, for everybody is how do you do that? What does that look like, you know, so you don't just become permanently stuck? And because I think we can, you know, I look out in society and I can see this now where, you know, parents, I think, get stuck and they cause their children to be stuck at the same spot. And we don't, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, but that's where we get 30-year-olds living in somebody's basement.
It's like a scratched record. It just keeps, it's like the same loop keeps going over and over and over again. And have you guys ever heard of the Enneagram?
Yeah. I'm familiar.
So it's this personality profiling tool, and it's ancient.
I'm a helper.
You're number 2. That's a helper,
Yeah.
right? But the whole idea of the Enneagram is that, like, whatever family you grew up in or whatever your holding environment was when you grow up, there's a certain way that you were wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates a scratch in your record.
Yeah.
And your personality type is like a response to wherever that wound was.
Yeah.
And that most people are sleepwalking. They're not even aware of, like, this loop. So for me, I'm a 3. The 3 is an achiever, which is based off of, like, some things that happened in my family growing up, where there was kind of like addictions coming in from both sides, and one parent dealt with it through perfectionism and the other person dealt with it through, like, passivity. And then somewhere in the middle of that, I decided I was going to be like a force of nature and prove myself through the perfectionism side of things, right? Yeah. And so if you're unconscious of those things, and if you're not actually kind of going back to figure out, okay, why is it that I keep repeating this loop? Like, when you hit the wall, it's typically because you've been repeating some behavior over and over again that's not working.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And like, we have to be, as parents, like, actually
That's
doing your own inner work is
yeah.
like usually the best thing you can do to help your kid, because otherwise you're just going to keep staying stuck on that scratch. You know?
Yeah. And I want to just, I see Elizabeth chimed in here. She says you also have to keep in mind that different kids get to those pivot points at different times, and it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very true. I mean, I'm sure you've seen that.
Every kid is unique.
Yeah, with your daughters, and so it's not a, hey, the day that somebody turns 13, they've hit this new point. But I think the point here is that there are stages, and you've got to, as you discern your own child and get to know because you know your kid better than anybody but themselves. Mm-hmm. and that we can't get stuck in each one of those spots. You know, I mean, if it is, it's such an interesting thing, because looking at some of these things, and I realize, like, where I'm kind of stuck is, you know, we're transitioning and pivoting into that friend stage, but there's an awkwardness to it. But I watch some of my, you know, I worked for 19 years with adults and children with developmental disabilities, and for a lot of those parents of adult children with developmental disabilities, they never got past that beginning stage.
Yeah.
They never even got to go to the king stage, you know? And so then to watch these folks kind of transition rapidly through from basically nursemaid to freedom when they're, you know, that's a big jump. And it's one of those things that I always had to look back on and say think about how hard that was for folks. But I think that the longer and I think what it goes to is the longer we stay stuck in one spot, the harder the transition is going to be. And so we've got to deal with it as soon as it becomes evident, and maybe not even evident to us, but if somebody else that we trust is going to be able to say, hey, listen, jerk face, you're stuck, you know?
Well, and each kid is, at least for us, each kid is so different.
Yeah.
So, like, the way that you motivate them or the way that you relate to them is, it can be vastly different. So, like, what works well with one of your kids can completely backfire with another kid.
Yeah.
It's super humbling, man.
So,
and in fact, I mean, there's no other arena in my life where I felt like I suck more.
Then as a parent?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like you never have anything mastered. It's
No, absolutely.
It's impossible.
I
It feels like.
yeah, absolutely.
You know, one of the biggest things I had to learn though is just to like actually learn how to apologize and ask my kids for forgiveness.
Yeah.
You know, and I got to be honest, I went a long time before I realized how much damage it was doing trying to pretend like I wasn't making mistakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that I was actually modeling for them the exact opposite of the kind of person I want them to be.
Yeah.
Like, don't you hate that person at work
Yeah.
who whenever they're
Right.
screwing up? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's the most irritating person.
Yeah.
You know?
That's true.
And that
Uh,
really changed the culture of our family when I started intentionally doing that with Michelle and the girls.
So when you made that transition, like, just out of curiosity, how was that received?
I mean, I think it was different for the different girls. So like
Sure.
Belle, I think I started doing that earlier in her journey. So I think that's kind of been a part of her journey her whole life. But I think for Maddie, it was a relief.
Yeah.
You know, because with your first kid, you tend to overcompensate.
Sure.
It's like the first kid, I feel bad because they're like this little guinea pig that you're trying to figure out how to run experiments on. And hopefully it works, you know.
Sadly true.
And I was, again, you know, probably way too uptight, way too demanding, you know.
Yeah.
And that, I think, hurt her in ways. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's like when those two started to get to middle school, that was when I realized how, like, I hope this doesn't come off sexist, but I think this is true. You know, like when dad says something, I think it weighs like 500 pounds.
Mhm.
And when mom says something, it's not as heavy.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize like the weight of my words or like the tone of my voice. And to me, it's like, I'm just.
And here's the interesting thing. I read a book that talked about that. And I think, and it not to chase this too far down a rabbit trail, but you know what I was talking about earlier with my relationship with Hope, where we had that bonding time when we were young, when she was really young, and in our home, like the words of Belinda tend to carry that 500-pound weight in her life, and mine are a little bit lighter, and it was this thing where it talked about what are the benefits, what happens in that early stages of bonding that tends to happen between a mother and a child. And then dads come in and they're an outside influence in the midst of this relationship unconsciously. So there is an added weight that comes because the foundation and the bonding is different.
It makes a lot of sense.
And so, yeah,
that's why it was reversed for you guys.
Yeah, that's exactly why it was reversed in that home.
And I guess I realized I was using that weight like, bam, too hard, you know?
Yeah.
And I grew up in a family where there was a ton of conflict. Like the first time Michelle came over to dinner, that's my wife.
Yeah.
She left. She's like, all you guys did was fight the whole time. I was like, what?
That wasn't fighting.
We never had a fight. What are you talking
conversation.
about? We were just talking.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah. And so, I don't know.
But it's interesting because in my situation, it's very similar, but like I think my words carry more because our relationship is so different. I'm not a force in the sight that's seen every day.
Yeah.
So when my girls are with me, when I say something, it carries a lot of weight. And I think it's because they don't see me every day, to the point I am even a threat now used in the other household. When my oldest child did something and she was 100% wrong in this. She got into an argument with her stepfather, got directly in his face and screamed, "I hate you." Her mother's response was, "What would your father say if he knew that you had said that you hated someone?" And my daughter burst into tears, said he would be mad at me. And she's right. Yeah. So I'm just a specter in the other home. Like this presence that just lingers.
This new found title.
Right.
Kyle is the avenging angel.
Sounds right.
Sounds right.
Well, one of the things I've been trying to use that force for really intentionally is just speaking like positive identity into my girls.
Yeah.
You know, like telling them, like my middle daughter, Whitney, she's got a real passion for the differently abled and the disabled. Like she worked actually in a residential home for people on the spectrum last summer.
I heard.
And
which is awesome.
It is awesome. And we were having a conversation about that today. And I told her, it's like I see God alive, like shining through you when you're doing that thing, you know. And it's for me, it's like you're an example to me.
I know that shine.
Yeah, I want to be more like that. Yeah, you know. And I think when we realize our words carry that kind of weight, like just intentionally using the force for faith, belief, like positivity, and this is what I see in you, you know. And when I can tell when I do that, it just lands in a really deep place in them.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So when you made the decision to do all of this, did you sit down with each individual daughter and say, hey, I realize I've been doing this wrong, here's what I'm going to do differently? Or did you just start to work that newfound?
Actually, with Maddie, I did. She was old enough to where I felt like I needed to explain myself and what was going on. But the others, it was more like, no, I just started trying to be more intentional about it.
Okay.
You know?
And they noticed the difference quickly, I assume.
I think so.
Okay.
You'd have to ask them.
Yeah.
But I think they would say to you guys kind of like what your daughter said, like Dad's like anger over the years, you know what I mean? And his like aggressiveness is like slowly come down, you know? And a lot of that has to do with, like I said earlier, me dealing with my own crap and finally getting it to Jesus and letting him work on me.
Well,
rather than like pretending I'm okay.
Which is what I was, what I was going to mention is like, if I look back on this and I realize, okay, so what was the difference? And it was totally like, I let Jesus point out the plank in my eye at the end, and I started to deal with it rather than looking around the plank and trying to figure out all these other things that just made me mad. And I didn't know why. It was my eye was hurt, you know, I mean, and so it moved from, I was dependent upon Joe, you know, we've talked about posture here. This idea of posture of I want God's will and not mine. It's not I am Joe Almighty, my will be done anymore. And
that's a hot mess, man.
It is. Dude, it is.
Yeah. Almighty Joe is hot mess.
Well, dude, Almighty any of the three of us sitting here at this table, or anybody who's paying attention over here.
Somebody else said something, but I can't read it.
Austin Anderson says, thanks, guys. Needing this right now.
Good.
Austin, we love you, buddy.
Love you, Austin.
You are incredible. You're an incredible young man.
Living it up in Tongi.
Tonganoxie. I was in your hood today, buddy.
Action City, USA, brother.
That's right.
That's right. The wild streets of Tonganoxie.
I love the Andersons.
They're phenomenal individuals, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an amazing family.
No doubt.
And so, remember a couple of years ago when you got to get up and at Christmas time and give you a little, they were the week before you guys.
Yeah.
So it was
the Sean Anderson family.
Sean Anderson.
Yeah, he watches. I didn't see him come in. Yeah, but okay. Yeah.
Sean pops in every week.
Yeah, he does.
So, all right. So I got a question. And, as you have you've kind of journeyed through some of these transitions, some of these pivot points, and some of these potentially stuck spots. Like, if you're sitting there and somebody comes to you and say, I'm stuck at this spot, I'm stuck. I realize that like I've been the king and now I'm trying to be the king of a 17-year-old.
Yeah, good luck with that.
And right. And we know this.
Right.
But they're like, this is, because my dad was the king, and still tries to be, and I'm 40, and whatever.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing. Some people never pivot.
Right.
And what happens is it just alienates people.
If you could look at that and say, hey, here's 2 or 3 things that are going to be able to give you the strength to make this pivot, or 2 or 3 things that you need some steps you could potentially take. I mean, and I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, and I don't know if that's what you came prepared to answer, but.
Well, I mean, the first thing that pops to mind for me is, and this was basically, I think Jesus is the expert at describing how ultimate reality works.
Yeah. So
I'm trusting that his mental map is right about everything. And I'm trying to get my mental map lined up with Jesus' mental map.
Sure.
And, in his, basically his classic album, The Sermon on the Mount, it starts with, blessed are the poor in spirit.
Yeah.
So for me, it has to start with a sense of your own poverty, like a sense of your own futility, your own limits, and humility.
Yeah.
And so, and what I see a lot, I've seen in my life, and then I see other parents doing it. It's like it's all the blame shifting. It's all the kid's fault, And I would just ask any parent who's experiencing a ton of conflict. It's like, own your, what? It's like, own your stuff, man. Like, if you work on your side of this equation, if you work on your side of the road, I guarantee you things will get better.
Yeah.
Like, you can't make your kid change. Yeah. Give up on trying to change your kid and start with changing yourself. You know what I mean? And I think it starts there.
Yeah. There's just this idea that I've been wrestling with lately, and
now again, I'm not talking about when they're a nursemaid.
Right, understandable.
Or even when they're when you're in king zone, it's like we're not going to have a debate about whether or not you brush your teeth and go to bed at 8:30.
Sure.
What I'm saying?
You're going to do this because we said so. Yeah.
Right. But I'm talking, there's a lot of arenas where it's like you're trying to control your kid and make them something they're not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or bringing expectations that they can't meet.
And I think some of this goes back to a word that nobody likes to use, and that's submission. Who are we really submitted to? The Bible talks about submit your will unto the Lord, and I think that there is this element of submitting my will for my child unto the Lord, and realize that He's got a better plan. Mm-hmm. It is what you're saying.
The Bible says there's this whole passage, 2 passages like Ephesians 5 and 6, where it's talking about how what is the ecosystem of a healthy family. And the beginning of those 2 chapters, it says, submit yourselves to the Lord.
Yeah.
So it's like the whole thing is like, you need something at the center of your family galaxy that's bigger than all of you.
Absolutely.
And that's God.
Yeah.
I mean, He's the only one who has enough gravity to hold your family together. So if mom's in the middle, boom, it's going to fly apart. If dad's in the middle, boom, it's going to fly apart. Right. If it's the kids are in the middle and they make all the shots, shoot, it's going to fly apart. But it starts with, we have this loving, kind, extraordinarily wise, gracious, present God who's saying, I want to be right in the middle of the entirety of your life. And it's like, that's the thing that we can start orbiting around. And then it says, basically, husbands and wives should submit to one another.
To one another, yeah.
It's like, try to compete in outserving one another. Like, husbands, listen to your wives.
Yeah.
Like he says Paul says some pretty radical stuff. He says, man, you have some advantages women don't have. All right, which sounds sexist. But what he's saying is, in that culture, men had way more power than women did.
Well, dude,
but then he goes on to say, but treat them as heirs.
Right.
So, even in a season of patriarchy, he's saying, listen, treat your wife as an equal.
Right. Absolutely.
A lot of us would be way better parents if we would listen to our partner.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then he goes on and says, fathers, don't exasperate your children.
Mm-hmm. Which we all struggle with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's pretty radical. It's like this radical commitment to serve, to listen, to give, and try to keep putting yourself not power over, but power under.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There's a scripture in 1 Peter, and it's a little bit of the Revised Joe version here.
Yeah. We're used to that by now.
Yeah, I know. Folks here, they're used to the Revised Joe version. I can get pretty close, but we got an amen. I don't know what it was for. But probably something that you said.
Hey, while you're forming your thought, I see Liz is commenting there. If I don't see you Saturday at the 20-year reunion, we gonna have words.
Yeah, Liz.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know you better be in Kansas City on Saturday.
Liz.
You dig? That's right. Liz and I go way, way back.
As far back as you and Dale?
As far back, yeah. She used to run with Dale and I. We all did crazy high school,
Liz. We haven't
middle school things together.
All the way back to Spinderella, baby.
That's right.
Liz, we haven't met, but you're a saint. If you're still hanging around,
put up with Dale and I for many years.
Put up with Dale and Kyle.
Yeah.
So, but there's a scripture in 1 Peter where it says, in essence, it says, hey, you need to shepherd the flock that God has given you, because one day the true shepherd is going to come back and he's going to hold you accountable for what you do, for what you've done. And it comes back to, and we've had this conversation before, our role is under shepherds in the kingdom,
Right.
you know, and what's the role of an under shepherd? Our role here is protection, provision, and guidance. But it's not protection, and it's at different seasons, you know. When they're little bitty, it's protections from themselves and from outside influences. But as they get older, it's protection within the filter of what we can teach them. You know, it's one of those things that I've had to realize. Like Hope's at the age now where she's got so much freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I can't protect her.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can if she's under my roof, but that's not much longer.
Yeah.
So the best protection I can provide her is wisdom, and it is honestly the wisdom that comes from Christ, because that's going to be the guide rails that she needs to be able to protect herself in this world. And you know, and then provision, which, you know, at a young age it's food and water and those other things. And as Hope's gotten older, it's become more of I provide a sounding board for some of the things she's wrestling with.
Yeah, that's one of the coolest things is how Maddie's been seeking me out on big decisions in her life. And to me, it's like, that's the coolest thing. Like, she's seeking me out as her coach, even though she doesn't have to.
That is a really cool thing.
So, you know, like for like this idea of being a sounding board, it wasn't that long ago Hope came to me and she was struggling with a situation where she's struggling to reconcile something that's happening in the world with her faith.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a big deal.
Yeah.
But she felt comfortable coming and saying, hey, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
You know, and then there's that guidance, which is just a consistent guidance back to the Good Shepherd, because I got to remember I am not him.
Yeah.
Nor do I want to be.
Well, the other big thing I've learned is I used to jump, like and I'm still really bad at this. I've messed this up in just the last week or two. But I can so easily jump to, okay, they share something and I'm going to jump to, like, here's how to fix it.
Here's how to fix it.
Here's how to fix it. Rather than like slowing down and just being present and going, I see you, I hear you, I understand.
Yeah.
And I just think about, even in terms of my own prayer life, I'm so glad when I'm praying, God doesn't go, hey, would you just look at my book? The answer's in the book. Like, no, he doesn't do that. He listens to
Sometimes
me.
I wish he would. And just say,
no doubt.
hey, Joe, here's the answer right there. Just look at this.
But he gives us this unconditional loving presence.
And this,
like, you look at the Psalms,
yeah,
and a bunch of the Psalms are just jacked up. It's like Paul, I mean, David's like, I want you to crush the heads of my enemies' babies.
I am so mad. God, please just go.
It's sick.
It's bad.
It's literally sick.
Yes.
But the thing is, that's actually true prayer. And,
Right.
And that God in that moment is letting David just
I've
right.
I,
And what I'm saying,
really
we need
glad
to.
that, yeah.
What I've been bad at is like giving that same gift to my kids.
Yeah.
And I'm really trying to learn, especially with Belle right now. You know, she's in a big transition from middle school to high school, and that's like turbulent.
Yeah.
You know, and her friend group like kind of blew up into two different schools.
Yeah.
So people that she's been super tight with for a long time. So that's, you know, and it's easy for me to just skirt over that. Like, it's not a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's a huge deal in her world. You
Well,
know?
I mean, and I've been wrestling with that with our middle kid, and even though she's in elementary school, like, she just switched elementary schools.
Mhm.
And
it's a huge
and
deal
it's
in
a
her world.
different, and it's a completely different culture. And I know I've got some folks who are paying attention from up in Leavenworth, and I've got some folks who know me in Johnson County, and there's a different culture.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so, you know, and it's hard for her to reconcile that things that in her Johnson County school would have gotten somebody sent to the principal or gotten somebody, they just say quit, you know, and so it's hard for her to reconcile these things and try to make friends in the process, and that friends look different in this new environment, in this new cultural norm. Because the cultural norms are different, you know, and so it's it's just an interesting. It's an interesting season to be able to sit and listen to an 8-year-old process these things out loud, but then knowing that I still have the role of saying, "No, this is what you can do," because as she gets older, I won't have that. But at 8, I can still say, "Hey, this is what I think you should do."
Yeah, and even when the girls are older, like when I actually say I see you or hear you and I understand and I do it authentically, they almost always ask me, "What do you think?"
Yeah.
What do you
You'll
think
get
do?
there.
Yeah,
You'll
you
get to the
get there.
fix. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
No, I screwed that one up completely just this past weekend.
yeah,
So, yeah. Oh yeah. My 10-year-old is having troubles at school with friends and little 10-year-old drama and stuff. And in my mind, my jaded self,
it's 10-year-old drama.
it's 10-year-old drama. But like, I understand why she was upset, but my response is different than what a 10-year-old girl's would be.
Absolutely.
If someone has issue with me, they can either address it or I really don't care. It's not how it works at 10-year-old elementary level. If someone thinks poorly of you, it affects you. It upsets you, and it leads to all sorts of different things. So yeah, I was trying to stress to her. I went straight to the fix. Rather than just acknowledging why she was upset, because to me it doesn't make sense as a 40-year-old man. And so yeah, no, I screwed the pooch on that one just this past weekend.
Yeah, well,
Kind of want to redo on that.
Well, you can go back and say, "Honey, I'm sorry."
Yeah. No, we'll be
And
talking
that's
about it
something-
next weekend because it sounds like the problems continue. So
Cool.
So yeah.
Get another chance, man.
I
That's the
do.
good part.
Yeah, I get a
So-
second go on that.
So back to this idea of this Jesus being the orbit, what we orbit around. I mean, this idea of I'm trying to phrase my question well here. How have you? Because I know and maybe you haven't experienced this, but I know I have. There are seasons in my life when he is very much the center of my orbit, and there are very much times when I have replaced him
Yeah, definitely.
with other
Me too.
things. So
That's a day. I mean, that can
it can be a
change
daily thing,
4
yeah.
times in a day.
absolutely.
Right. Or 20 sometimes.
So
Yeah.
So how do you personally kind of discern when that has begun to happen? Or do you have other people that you allow to speak in and
Yeah,
say,
it's-
"Hey,
it's-
bro"?
it's both. Like Jesus said, you're going to know something by its fruit. So like when things are going really cattywampus and there's a ton of anger or, ton of tension, ton of joy's down, you know what I mean? Anxiety's up. I mean, those are things to go, hey, those are lights on the dash.
Yeah.
Like if Jesus is in the center, there's going to be a sense of peace, even though circumstances are crazy. There's going to be a sense of maybe clarity, even though there's a storm, And then I try to be really transparent with my best friend and my wife, Michelle, and I've got, 4 or 5 other guys. Like I sat with those guys, was yesterday Monday? Yeah,
Mhm.
Monday. And, and when one of them asks, how you really doing? What can I pray for you about? I actually told them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Instead of, no, I'm good.
I-
I'm good.
Yeah, or pray about some work I need to get done. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? There's all that. It's like, no, I want to tell you what's actually going on in my soul. Here's what I need you to pray for about.
Yeah.
You
Keep showing up, man.
You're the only one that can read that. I sure can't.
It's okay. Apparently, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Elizabeth says she guesses you're going to have words because she's not coming. And then she said,
it's going
I say.
down.
then she said she's not a saint either, which obviously because she's not coming to your party.
It's not my party. It's 20-year high school reunion. Come on, Bisbee. Jeez.
It's all right, Elizabeth.
No, it's not.
It's all right, Elizabeth.
No, it's not. I'll do this all night. I can do this all day. I'll throw my Marvel reference out there for the night. There it was.
I didn't catch.
Because you don't watch those movies.
I know.
On American whatever. How did you do on fantasy football this weekend anyway?
Oh yeah, we got to talk that just for
Yeah,
a moment.
Please
here.
do.
Yeah, pardon us for a moment.
Okay.
I'm out of everything on parenting.
Like
I'm
wisdom
done.
is on empty.
I love it.
You've tapped my
So
small.
Country Road, take Mahomes.
Yeah.
Lost.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a great name, though, man.
Yeah. Now, Plexidentally shot myself.
Uh-huh.
Won.
Okay. Good.
So, do you catch the reference for the Plexidentally shot myself?
Very nice.
Yeah. I'm just making
You're
sure.
impressive, man.
And so I thought it was pretty good.
It's all right.
And then, I thought it was really good. And the Country Road Take Me Homes.
It's brilliant. That one's brilliant. You got to give that to him.
No, that song just got released.
Oh,
did it really?
For real?
Yeah, one of the local radio stations redid Country Road Take Me Home, and now it's Country Road Take Me Home.
I heard that.
I did not know that.
It just came out yesterday.
They obviously saw my fantasy football name.
They did.
I want some.
You should have that in copyright.
I want some royalties.
Too late on that one. But
Dang it.
Hey, Chiefs are 3-0.
They
so
are.
Go team, go.
How about you, man? You are in 3 leagues. So how did this weekend turn out for you?
I went 2-1.
Okay, so
I won in the league that you and I are.
And
Actually, I think I won in both leagues that
Did
you and I
you?
are in.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So I know one of the names you probably shouldn't say on the air.
There's one name I can't say on the air. Actually, I can't say any of them on the air.
No?
No, I'm rather inappropriate with my
You
fantasy
have
football
got to
team.
work on that.
No, I don't.
No, just because it's fun to be able to say them on the air. It's kind of fun to say, "I accidentally shot myself."
Wouldn't be fun to say the names of my teams, but it's kind of what I think of the NFL at times. And
Okay,
so,
fair enough. No, it's no problem.
Yeah.
Just
All
keeping
right.
it real, man.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
But no, 2-1. So
Okay.
in the important league, the one's for money, I'm 2-1.
As
You
am
are
I.
now 2-1.
As am I.
So,
Yeah, it kind of frustrates me.
coming back to the pack, buddy.
I know. It was one of those things where I kind of got myself, and I started feeling real good about myself after starting 2-0.
Oh, I saw your smack talk. Yeah, I saw it in the Facebook chat room.
Hey, listen.
Yeah.
I'm going to smack talk
Mhm.
through the rest of the season,
Even if you don't win another
even
game.
if I don't win another game,
That's
because somebody
exactly
needs
right.
to.
Yep.
And in that league, nobody else seems to want to smack talk.
They are a very quiet bunch. Very quiet bunch.
Well,
Deadly
that's
serious. They're in
because
it to win
they
it, man.
are
They
a
are.
bunch of punks,
Well, that too.
and so
And none of them watch the
especially
show,
Wes.
so- especially Wes.
Yeah, poor guy. I've only met him twice in my life, and
Both at fantasy football drafts.
that's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know
Um,
we're way over a half hour. Who
we
cares?
are.
We had fun. Rob, thank you very much for joining us.
It's great to be here.
Really appreciate it. Now, Joe told me that you didn't want to pimp yourself out, and that's fine. I get it. But since I can't pay guests because I make no money doing this, can you take like 20 seconds and tell people something you're doing, something
Yeah,
that
sure.
fires you up? Go for
Yeah,
it,
I'm a
man.
part of this this new thing in Kansas City called the Kansas City Underground.
Mm-hmm.
So we're a network of like-minded people who want to see these very simple, extended spiritual families
Right.
that are people who they don't go to church, they want to be the church.
Right.
And they're open to any spiritually curious person. These are people doing life together,
Mhm.
partying together,
Right.
going through the difficulties and carrying the burdens together. And we've got a big dream. We'd like it so that everybody in Kansas City who wanted to be in a family like that could be in a spiritually extended family like that. So that's what we're working on. So the Underground, it's kind of like a nonprofit that functions like a mission agency
Mhm.
that helps support and encourage and train and launch people that want to live into the Jesus mission that way.
I love it.
So
I love it.
we know there's a place in the world for the kind of organized institutional church.
Sure.
But we've kind of taken the beauty and split, man.
Yeah.
We're
I like it.
we're going out to the edges, so
Yep.
that's where we live.
Yep. And let's see, it's at Underground KC on Facebook. I believe I saw it.
That is correct.
Okay.
KC Underground. I
There
think
we
it is.
I thought they had it backwards. Either way, I will post it on the show page. So if
You will.
that's something that interests you,
Yeah, check out our Facebook.
yeah, go to the Facebook
Check it
page.
out.
It's
It's
really a super
awesome.
cool concept. Yeah, I dig it.
It's the most amazing group of people like I've ever got to be a part of.
I know
It's
a few of
super
them,
cool.
and they're really cool folks.
Yeah,
One of them I
it's-
call boss, and I've called her boss since shortly after we started working together. So
Right on. I
And
know who you're talking about.
yes, and just like your Spinderella,
She's awesome.
and she's boss.
Yes, she is.
There you go. All
Yeah,
right.
thanks.
Says
It
so
was
in my
fun being
phone.
here, man.
No, I
Thanks
appreciate
for letting me be a part
your
of it.
time.
I love what you're doing, man.
Thank you. Joe,
Yeah, man.
we tolerate you as always.
Absolutely, I appreciate the toleration. I am
I think you made up a new word.
toleration.
Toleration.
Hey, listen, man.
It's Tyler Nation.
It's toleration. No, it's all good. I appreciate being on 2 weeks in a row, and I want to just
Oh,
because I'm trying to remember correctly because I know I'm up again.
He's
I'm gonna hang
hijacking.
with
He's
you. No, it's all
hijacking
good.
the show
I'm
again.
going to hang with you in October, and we're going to do this together.
Yeah.
But there's one coming up where you asked me to do something by myself.
On November 5th,
November the 5th. There it is.
it is going to be hitting the Joe. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Joe's going to be here in
I'm
studio.
gonna stand here and
it's going to be him.
$5 to punch me.
Freestyle Joe.
It's going to be Freestyle Joe.
And
I
we're
like
just
it.
gonna have a line and pay $5, and it's hitting the Joe.
I don't want to take a week off, but
Rob's
bringing the spatula.
Rob's ready.
I will be broadcasting an M&U game that night, so the show is yours.
I am looking forward to that. So if any of you fine folks want to be on a podcast with me,
Oh, Joe's opening up the studio.
I would love it. So let's see.
Who else?
Elizabeth,
Yeah.
if you
Can
So,
you repeat what she said on the air?
let's see here. Well, it says for a high school I didn't like when I was there. She's not going. She says also, I will let you know the next time she is up. And it says, great show, guys. Like being able to hear that dads have some of the same concerns about raising the children as moms do.
Oh, we have all the concerns, trust me.
We are concerned, and oftentimes we are concerning.
We are definitely concerning. That's absolutely right.
And Rob is wearing a spatula as a necklace.
And
so
seems like the right thing
and
to do.
on that note, I think it's probably time to pray and be done. What do you think?
I'd say you're probably correct. We almost went an hour tonight.
Yeah, we did.
Hey, look at us go.
You want me to pray real fast?
Fire away, Gridley.
All right. Listen, Jesus, this has been fun. I appreciate the opportunity for us to sit here and talk about some of the most important relationships in our life, and including the relationship we have with you. And so Jesus, I pray that this was an honoring time for you, and that this was a time that folks were able to grab something out of and be able to apply in their own life. And thank you for the friendship I have with these guys. And Jesus, I love you. And I'll talk with you again soon. Amen.
Did you really just Matthew McConaughey into a prayer?
I did.
Did that really that really happened?
It did.
Wow.
I just, and I didn't even mean to. It just happened.
It totally happened. Thanks, everyone, for joining us this week. I will be on next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you later.
Grace, peace.
Boom. And